Welcome back, everyone. I'm Johanna from Life for All, and I want to welcome you to this Moral Awareness Seminar, Life Seminar. And the session we'll be talking about now is about abortion. This is one of our main topics. We've spoken about fetal development and seen how the baby grows inside the mother's womb. And we need to realize again and again that life is really a gift from God, because life cannot be made by man. If there's a little bit of life left in a person, the doctors can try and do anything to sustain that life or to strengthen that life. But if life is gone, it's gone. There's nothing that we can do about it. There's a sentence that Mother Teresa said, and I just want to quote that. She said, "I feel that the greatest destroyer of peace today is abortion, because it is war against the child, a direct killing of the innocent child, murder by the mother herself." Why would she say that? Let's have a look at what abortion is. The definition of abortion would read that it would be giving birth either spontaneously or by induction before the embryo or fetus is capable of living outside of the womb. So we're taking out the child outside of the womb before it can survive by itself. That is the definition of abortion. And there are two types of abortion. One is the one where it's really not under our control. We can also call it a miscarriage. And in those situations, the mother would be pregnant and she might even be happy about having the baby, but then suddenly she gets pain and there might be some bleeding coming. And for whatever reason, we don't know why, the baby dies inside the mother's womb. And then we need to take the baby out to save the mother's life from infection. There's another kind of an abortion which is called induced abortion. Now, in this abortion case, the baby inside is growing well, everything is fine, but for some reason, some human being, it could be the mother, or it could be the doctor, or it could be the father of the child, someone decides that this child shouldn't live. And so you go to the doctor, and either you kill the child by tablets, a chemical abortion is what we call it, or you would have a surgery done. This is what we call an induced abortion. This is where man is making a decision to kill a child inside the womb and then take it out. And this is the kind of abortion that I want to talk to you about now today. I'm not going to talk about the miscarriages, which is not under our control. I'm going to talk about the kind of abortion where people decide that a baby that is alive in the womb should be killed. Now, in India, what does the law say? In India, abortion is legal up to 20 weeks of gestation. And there are, at the Supreme Court in Delhi, as well as in Chennai, at the High Court, there are petitions that are asking to raise the ceiling. Abortion, they say, should not just be legal up to 20 weeks, but up to 24 weeks. So people are wanting to give a longer period for abortion. So that's just what the law says about that. There are different situations where a woman can ask for an abortion. It could be that her health is bad, and if she carried this child to term, she could die. That's a lot of heart diseases or lung infections, things like that. It could also be because of the mental health of the mother, where the doctors say this mother, if she gives birth to this child, she will not survive this mentally. It could be, let's say, if the mother has been exposed to radiation, let's say she had a chemotherapy or something, that can severely bring severe abnormalities to the growing child. In that case, it's okay for the mother to have an abortion. And then one, of course, which is very, very difficult to prove, is a failure of contraceptive methods. This is for married couples, where a couple has had sexual intercourse and they got pregnant even though they had taken precautions and had used contraceptives, but they failed. Then they can go to the doctor and say, "Doctor, our contraceptives failed, please, we want to have an abortion." And then also for children who are handicapped, mothers who are carrying disabled children. If this is the case, then by law, the mother is allowed to have an abortion. And the last reason that I want to give you is if the conception was caused by rape. In those situations, it is also legal for the mother to undergo an abortion. There are different methods of abortion, which I just want to point out to you. The first one is what I mentioned earlier, is with the tablets. So in this case, you would need to be very early along in your pregnancy. So this kind of abortion method is only done in the first couple of weeks of pregnancy, and you would get 2 different kinds of pills. The first pill would basically be to starve the baby. Basically the connection, the nutrition connection between mother and baby would be cut, so that baby of course needs oxygen and needs nutrition and everything from the mother. That would be cut off, and baby would die in the very early stages. And then you take another couple of tablets that will just bring contractions and push out the baby. This it's called RU486, or it's called abortion kit. There's different names for this. But this is a very dangerous kind of abortion, because at the end of the day the mother is at home taking these abortion pills by herself. So basically she's the patient, but she also has to be like a kind of doctor, observing the symptoms. Is everything okay? Is everything going according to the plan? Because there'll be severe cramping, a lot of bleeding, and it's quite there's very little research done about this abortion pills, and we have to be very, very careful taking those. But if the baby is older, we would resort to surgical methods. So when we look at the surgical methods of abortion, there's different ways of doing these depending on the age of the child. Why? Because if we have a 12-week-old child like this one, the bones are still very soft, and we can do a different method than, let's say, if we have a 20-week. This 20-week baby, the bones are already hard, and we couldn't do the same method. Let me show you the method for a young child, maybe up to 12 weeks. The first thing that we always need to do in any surgical abortion is that we need to open the cervix. The cervix, as you might know, is the closing, like the lid, the closing point of the uterus, and it's supposed to be very tightly closed to keep that baby inside. But of course, if I want to do an abortion, I need to forcefully open it, and for that we would use dilators. There's different sizes. This is a very big one now. You would start with a thinner one and just forcefully open the cervix, which can also bring great damage to the cervix. But once the cervix has been opened, then I can go inside and perform a D&C, a dilatation and curettage. This is a curette invented by a gentleman named Mr. Curette, which is a steel instrument which has very sharp ends here. And what it does, you go inside, and through the ultrasound, of course, you can see the baby, and then you just find it on the ultrasound and just start scraping it out piece by piece, slicing it up basically. That would be a D&C. There's, as I said, there's different methods according to the age. If we have a baby that is older like that, I can't do that anymore, because obviously the bones, I won't be able to get them out. So what I need to do if the baby is older, I need to perform a so-called D&E, where I take an ovum forceps, I go inside and I find the baby on the ultrasound, and I would grab one limb, maybe a leg I would find first, tightly press it and just pull as hard as I can, and just basically pull that piece out. I would take an arm, do the same thing. The head is very difficult because it requires a lot of strength to actually press it so hard that I crush it. But then when there's a white liquid coming out at the bottom, then I know that I've crushed the head and the brain is coming out. This is what we call a D&E. There's another different method that I can use at this age of pregnancy, which is called the saline abortion. What happens there, as you might remember from the fetal development teaching, is that baby is inside the womb, it's swimming in the amniotic fluid, it's inhaling the water, it's drinking the water. And so what we do during a saline abortion is that I would put in here a hypertonic solution. What is a hypertonic solution? It's very, very salty. Now, for those of us who have drunk seawater, it's about 20 times saltier than seawater, than ocean water. And what they would do is they would put this saline solution, this hypertonic solution, and just put it directly through the abdominal wall into the water where the baby is swimming, and just put that salty water inside. Now what happens? Baby's drinking the water, baby's inhaling, and this sensitive, tender skin of the baby will get burnt. It'll take baby about 2 hours to die. And then the mother will give birth to a little shriveled, burnt up little baby. There are methods that I have not mentioned now, but all of these different methods of abortion, especially the surgical ones, will always stop a child's heartbeat. They will always, an effective abortion will always kill a child. So I don't know, after you've seen these pictures now, how would you describe abortion in your own words? What would be the word that comes to mind if you think about abortion? For me, it would be murder. Because there's this little child that's swimming and jumping and sucking its thumb and playing, and then an instrument comes and cuts it to pieces. And the majority of the abortions, the child will actually be feeling the pain, simply because the painkillers, the anesthesia that the mother gets, it will not reach the baby. So the baby will feel all the pain. Abortion is murder. Not only does a successful abortion kill a child, but it also brings great damages to the mother. You see, we weren't designed as women, we weren't designed to have abortions. We were designed to nurture and to care for babies and to protect them. That's what we were designed for. And if we go against nature, there will always be consequences. There are physical consequences. Our bodies, as I said, we need to open that cervix forcefully. That can bring great damage, and that can lead to cervical cancer. India is the country in the world with the highest number of cervical cancers among women. It can lead to breast cancer. It can lead to sterility, which means I won't be able to have children the next time I actually do want to get pregnant. So there's a lot of physical damage we can bring. But then there's also a lot of psychological damage that is caused by abortions. You know, suicide rate. If you've had an abortion, the chances of you committing suicide are 3 times higher than for a woman that has not had an abortion. Insomnia, you can't sleep at night, you hear the baby crying at night, feelings of guilt. You know, it's personality disorders, you don't want any relationship with your husband anymore. Grieving, it's a traumatic experience for women who have undergone an abortion. One thing that I really just like to point out, I spoke at the beginning of the abortion methods, I spoke about these pills, the RU486 or the abortion kit. Remember, where you take one pill that kills the baby and then you take more pills to bring about contractions. There is a so-called method, abortion pill reversal, which means if you've taken that first pill, it's called mifepristone, if you've taken that first pill, you can actually, with a high dosage of progesterone, which is a hormone, you can reverse the abortion and the baby can still live. There's been great successes in the US. More than 750 babies are alive today because their mothers who started the abortion process changed their minds and wanted to keep their baby. So please keep that in mind if you know anybody who is considering an abortion, especially a tablet, a chemical abortion, and maybe has already taken that first tablet. Okay, let's have a look into some of the myths and facts that are connected to the whole issue of abortion. Need to remember, a fact is something which is proven true, and a myth is something which people believe to be true, okay? We're going to address some of the myths, some things that people say about abortion, and then look at the actual fact. What is actually the truth? I'm going to look with you at 8 different myths that are out there in the world where people say things about abortion that are actually not true. So let's look at the first myth today. Some people say abortion is just terminating a pregnancy, it's not killing a child. What would the truth be? What would the facts be? The fact would be that every surgical abortion stops a beating heart and measurable brain waves. So we're dealing with a child. Remember from the fetal development presentation, it doesn't matter whether it's just the size of a rice corn or the size of a cashew nut at 2 months, it's always a little human and a little child. The second myth that is out there is that people say, well, you know what, the fetus is just part of the woman's body. It's like a tooth or a tonsil, you know, it's not a separate human being. Well, you know, I mean, that's easily you know, put down, that argument or that myth, because the baby has a totally different genetic code. It has its own blood group, you know, and in many cases, you know, if it were part of the mother's body, then the mother would have 4 eyes and 4 arms and 4 legs. It's absolute nonsense. The little child is a totally individual, independent little human being. The third myth people are saying about abortion is that everyone has the right to choose. How can you tell a woman that she's not supposed to have an abortion? It's her choice. Well, all I can say to that is, you know, I'm happy for people to have their own choices and make their own choices. You know, you can choose where you want to live and which career you want to have, and and which car you want to drive, that's definitely your choice. But as soon as your choice harms other people, I don't believe it's a choice anymore. I can't choose to go and beat someone up, just like a man can't choose to rape somebody, because his choice is harming somebody else. Now, if we understand that the baby inside the womb is an individual little human being, then really abortion is not a choice anymore, because it's greatly harming that little child. The fourth myth that is out there is where people say, you know, it's unfair for a child to be an unwanted child. Let's say the mother is not pregnant. Let's say she's a college student and she doesn't want to have the child. That poor child, wouldn't it be better for the child if it were aborted, rather than being born into a family where it's not wanted? How do you argue that? What's the fact? The fact is that every child in this world is wanted by someone. Maybe not by the biological, by the natural mother, but there are so many people out there in the world who are desirous to adopt, so many couples who are just waiting for years and years to have a baby and they just can't. So this argument is really not an argument. You know, the fact is every child is wanted by somebody. The fifth myth that is out there is that we need to have abortion available for women who've been raped or who are victims of incest. This is a big argument, and whenever you start speaking about abortion to anyone, this is usually the myth that comes first, saying, well, what about rape victims? I have to say about that, first of all, I believe that rape is a heinous, a terrible crime, and I believe that this rape victim needs a lot of support, a lot of love, and a lot of care. But I also believe that giving her a quick fix of abortion is not actually going to help her. You see, if we have a rape case where a woman has conceived, we have three people involved. We've got the rapist, we've got the mother, and we've got the baby. Who is innocent and who needs punishment? Who deserves punishment? I believe it's the rapist who deserves punishment. But when we give an abortion to the lady, we're actually giving capital punishment, death penalty, to the baby. Let's say my father, if he were to go and rob a bank, I wouldn't go to jail for that. My father would have to do that. So in this case, the person who is guilty is the rapist, and he needs to be punished. And also, it's interesting because we always speak about these situations. We speak about these women who have been raped. But have you ever spoken to one directly, personally? Not about the situation, but to her and heard her opinion? There's some very interesting data out there. Women who have been raped, they've conceived, and they've given birth to their child and given their child for adoption or kept the child themselves, and others who went for an abortion. It's interesting that those who kept their children, not one of them has regretted that. But many women who have gone for abortion thinking this will let me forget the rape very quickly, they regret that. Many of them, about 75% of these women actually regret that. So I believe a woman who's been raped doesn't need the quick fix of abortion. I'll just get that done, all your problems, and you'll go back to your normal life. She won't. She'll have to deal with the trauma of rape, and she needs help for that. But if we give her an abortion, she'll have an additional trauma to deal with. She'll have to deal with the trauma of abortion herself. Plus, it's a very interesting parallel between rape and abortion, because if you look at rape, it's a stronger person acting violently upon a weaker person. And it's the same thing with abortion. It's a stronger person acting violently upon a weaker one. And many women say, I don't want to do the same thing. I don't want to show the same behavior as the rapist did. The sixth myth that we're looking at is to avoid the trauma of having a handicapped or a deformed child. Let's say you're pregnant and you're excited about it, and then the doctor does a scan and says, oops, we've got the Down syndrome here, or oops, spina bifida, or something, some disease with strong malformations, and the women think that, abortion is the best thing to do. Is that right? Is that true? Or is that a myth? See, I believe that a handicapped, a disabled child has exactly the same value as a normal child. If you believe that a handicapped person doesn't have the same value, then technically we could go and kill all the handicapped people, whether we kill them outside of the womb or inside of the womb. Let's say I go to town this afternoon and I drive in the car and I have a car accident and I lose both my legs. You're not going to kill me just because I'm deformed. I have the same intrinsic value. And I believe that is true for the children as well. We shouldn't put different values on different people. We shouldn't say you are worth more than you. These families who are carrying children with disabilities, they need help. They need support. But abortion, killing the child, is never the option. Plus, if you talk to girls and boys or ladies and men who are disabled, a lot of them are very happy to be alive. The suicide rate is much lower among disabled people than among normal people. Another myth which is out there is, especially here in India, is that people say, well, abortion helps with the problem of overpopulation. We really have too many people here in India, so abortion is a good help. It's helping us to bring down the population. Is that true or not? See, I believe the poverty that we experience in India is not because of overpopulation. It's because of natural calamities, wrong distribution of natural resources, and then of course we have the big one of corruption. Those kind of things are all contributing to poverty. I don't believe that the number of people we have is contributing to poverty. If you look at other countries, let's say Russia, Mr. Putin is having a huge issue because he says, there's more people dying in Russia every day than are being born. His country is shrinking and he doesn't know what to do. Human resources are the best asset for every country. And the people are not the reason that we don't have enough to provide for everyone here in India. That is not the problem. Plus, let's say, even if it were the case that if we had less people we would be richer, I wouldn't want to build my fortune on the killing of innocent lives. The last myth that we're going to be discussing today is that some people say that abortion is a very easy and painless procedure. Is that really true? Is that a fact? If you ask women who've undergone abortion, many of them will say it was a very traumatic experience. And there's so many self-help groups out there, especially in the West, helping women deal with the pain of legal abortion. Abortion is not a painless procedure. It can be very painful for the mother. And of course, we need to remember that abortion is very often very painful for the child as well. So that's a myth as well, which is not true. The truth is, abortion is very painful emotionally and physically for the mother, but also for the baby. So what can we do with all this? We need to remember that in India alone, there's about 15.6 million abortions happening every year. That's one abortion every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The number is so huge. What can we do about this? We need to start speaking up about this. We need to start speaking to people about the value of the child inside the womb. You need to start, as you've heard this seminar now, you need to go out and share with somebody what you've heard. Maybe organize a seminar for people to come and speak things that you've heard today. But it's very important that we don't keep quiet and that we speak up for these little ones who really can't speak for themselves. It was Mahatma Gandhi ji who said, a nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members. Let me repeat that. A nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members. How are we treating our weakest members? How are we treating the little ones in this nation? I believe India has the potential to be great, but we need to start supporting, helping, and caring for the little ones. Thank you.